Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council presentation for International Women's Day and last month's Black History Month. So the DEI Council at Hill College is about brainstorming, creating ideas and programs to increase diversity and equity and inclusion at our school. So today we have Cleburne's Peggy Cross, who has a lot of stories, challenges, successes, and things that we can take away from. We also have, Miss Bush, Eleanor Bush, who is a Hill College professor here in biology, who will join us, and Johnny Dollarhide, which is another Hill College professor of sociology. So take it away, Johnny.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Mike. And good afternoon to everyone, and welcome. This is International Women's Day, and we have two outstanding women here today. And it is really a privilege of mine to even interview them. And as Dr. Mike mentioned, we're tying this particular session in with Black History Month. So we're getting double honor here today. But I'm going to allow each one to introduce themselves. I guess I'll start. I'm Professor Johnny Dollarhide, also a pastor. So my tag name that you'll see a lot on social media will be Pastor Johnny because of that. But I love being in the academic world. Been there much longer than I have in the theology world, but I love it. And I have been at Hill College now for 8 years. And before then, I was at Texas Wesleyan University, and before then, the University of North Texas, as I was doing my doctoral work on my PhD. So I'm loving it, love sociology, love teaching sociology, talking about sociology, and that's kind of about me. Now, Pastor Peggy is what I'll be calling her, and Miss Bush, I'm gonna let them tell you a little bit about themselves. Pastor Peggy, if you'll start, yeah.
Good afternoon, I'm Peggy Cross. I've been here in Cleveland for 37 years, originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, and an educator, retired teacher, author, mother of 8, married Kirkland Cross, Pastor Kirkland Cross Sr., and seen so many diversities, inclusion, things that were equitable, things that were not equitable, struggles, and watch my children grow up with the similar struggles and disparities in education. And the key word is faith. It takes faith to overcome your struggles. It takes faith to keep going. And it takes courage to know that you are validated, to know that you are important, to know that you are somebody. And I'll continue later, but I'll pass it on.
All right, Miss Bush.
Good afternoon. Of course, I'm Eleanor Bush, and I've been at Hill College 27, maybe going on 28 years. I'm originally from Alabama, born and raised there, attended school, and then crossed the Mississippi for the first time in '73. So I really didn't know what to expect when I came to Texas. But so I can say that now I am a Texan, because of the many years that I have been here. But I will say that working at Hill College has been the best experience I've had when I compare it to the other schools that I worked at. I worked at Wiley College. That was my first job, and it was in East Texas. And I can say that it was an adjustment. I got to experience racism and I guess you could say gender inequalities and so forth. But from there to Bishop College in Dallas, and then eventually to Hill College, which has been my home now for these years.
All right. Very, very good. And that's interesting you say that you experienced racism at an all-Black college.
Yes, historically Black.
Yes, historically Black, one of the HBCUs. So that it really shows us that women have had quite a journey from the gender thing and racism and all of the above, really. But as we begin to look at that journey and kind of go into what has gone on and how we as professional women now have gotten to the point we've gotten, degree authors, what steps, what took place during that journey. And I guess my story would actually be as an ordained minister in a predominantly mainline African-American church. I was very surprised to know when the call went out to interview any pastors who had pastored a church 20 years or more, and they were all men.
Mhm.
And so somebody wrote and said, well, where are the women? So we ended up, and we're talking a church that includes every state in the United States and some international. So it ended up, I happened to have been one of the women who pastored one church for 18 years. And then there was one other who was a mentor under me who had pastored. But to think now that you have this call for anyone who's pastored a church 20 years or more, one church, and there were no women. So I was surprised at that. And then I looked around and I really thought about the journey as a woman in ministry. So the racism may not have been apparent because our church is predominantly Black, but the sexism and misogyny, all of that was definitely apparent. Women were given the smallest church, if given any church, because the men needed the big churches to take care of their families. So that's been a part of the journey. And honestly, it has not changed a lot since then. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Pastor Peggy. You have a journey of education.
Yeah.
How has that been?
Well, I moved to Texas with 2 years of college from LSU and no back in the day. It's now, University of New Orleans. But I was a mother. I was married, and my husband was transferred here from the power plant in New Orleans. And so I stayed home with the kids. And then opening came for me to work at a daycare. I love children. And so I took that offer at Geneva Overton Underprivileged Daycare. But they told me I had business courses. They say you needed human growth and development courses on how a child develops from infancy to 18. And here was Harold College. I came here to take those courses and met Chris Patton. I don't know if any of you know her, but she was here, and different professors that encouraged me. And I enjoyed the visit for a semester or two. Then I came back to take a computer course I needed. I was attending University of Southwest Adventist College. And I graduated from there in 94 at the age of 40. And so I waited and persevered until my kids were old enough so I could leave home and attend classes. But I felt the call also to preach. And the church I was in, they didn't believe in, you could speak, you could teach Bible, but you couldn't get in the pulpit. And so I waited and waited, and my husband decided, okay, we're going to do this. He gathered a bunch of pastors who believed in women ministers. And we went and got ordained. I got ordained same time my son got ordained. But then our journey led to mission. I had a daughter that went to Africa after her college degree on mission. She loved the babies. And I met some women pastors over there. And in fact, the second time I was over there, they invited me to preach in their pulpits. And we went on prayer walks in the neighborhoods. But it's been back here, I've decided and was led to go get my master's in administration. And it was a tough road to hang in there and do. I was in an administration class at Tarleton with a bunch of men. And they would ask questions like, why is it the Black kids aren't passing? And why is it, I said, not passing, there are Black kids passing the state test, you know. That was their perception of who we are without knowing us. I said, there are a lot of kids pass. My kids pass the state test, you know. I said, but a lot of it also was teachers weren't teaching. You know, their concept, a lot of, they call it self-fulfilled prophecies.
Yes.
And others prophesying and are trying to set who you will become. He doesn't want to learn. She will never learn. You know, and we went through disparities like that to overcome, but I could only stand up for my children, you know, and help the kids that I taught to let them know you can be whoever you want to be. Your dreams can come true. You are somebody. And one little guy said, Miss Cross, I can't pass this test. My daddy don't have a job. I say, and? I said, there was a time my husband didn't have a job. We get laid off or switch job. I said, but has he ever worked? Yes. I said, your daddy's smart. If you can hold a job, I don't care what it is, you are smart. We have to influence our young people. And me at my age, we got to pass the baton and let them know you can be whatever you want to be. It's not, and even some of my kids who say, Mama, I'm one of 8 kids. How can I go to college? I say, you will go to college. I don't know how you're going to go to college, but our faith in God will get us there. You know, and I say, it's not where you come from. It's where you're going.
All right.
And it's how high you see yourself going.
Yes.
What do you want to become?
Yeah.
You know, and I have several children that have a doctorate on one child, and several that have master degrees, and some with college degrees, and one that's a preacher. And I'm thankful to keep a positive note and to keep that mind frame, give them a positive mindset of who they can become.
Yeah.
And as women, we have to stay positive for the women coming behind us. We have to influence them, whether you're a professor, a teacher, a pastor, you got to have a positive mindset and let them know the opportunities are there.
Yes.
But it's not gonna fall out the sky and fall on you and sit in your lap and say, here it is.
Yeah.
But you have to work. You have to be
Yes.
patient. You have to have direction. You have to give yourself strategies. You have to pray. You got to believe that there's a supreme being that sent you to this world for a reason. There's a scripture I love that says, I know the plans I have for you to give you hope in a future. You know, a lot of kids don't have that hope for themselves, or they watch their environment
Yes.
and they don't see what they will ever become.
Yes,
If they don't see
Yeah.
mom or dad doing
Mhm.
something productive, they don't see themselves being productive.
very good. And you know, what you're saying is a lot of it is even sociological. We teach that the Thomas theorem is what we call the self-fulfilling prophecy, that you can become what you're encouraged to become, and you also can become what you're discouraged to become. So if you're told you can't do, you won't do, and your family didn't do, and you buy into that mindset, then you become what you've been told, if you buy into it. So that's very interesting to know that your journey has been one of, we call it students who are not necessarily traditional students. You said you started at 40 when you went back to, and yet you persevered right up to a master's degree. Sure, it wasn't easy.
And I think
Yes.
also that
Mhm.
age is not a factor anymore.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter if you're fresh out of high school or 40, as you say, because some of my students were 40 in some of my classes, and older than that, because I've had grandparents and, you know, so forth. And they made it. But the good
Mhm.
thing was that we have to encourage them, we have to motivate them and let them know, like you say, Dr. Dollar, that you can do it
Yes.
regardless of the obstacles, you know, that you're going to be faced with.
Yeah. And you have to keep on persevering. That's another thing that as women, I think we have just a little gift in us to not give up
Mhm.
when the times get hard. I thought the other day, I said, you know, I was on a 50-year journey to for a doctoral journey, trying to get my doctoral
Mhm.
degree. 50 years. And so many things happened in between, all the setbacks. And 10 years later, I'd go back and start it again.
Yeah.
15 years later, go back and start it again. So it's a matter of not giving up, just persevering.
Mhm.
And I dare say, and Sister Bush, Miss Eleanor,
Mhm.
you can tell me what you think about this, but I dare say that Black women have probably had a harder time trying to find success and to actually succeed than any other category of people in our society. What do you think about that?
Well, when I think about what I dealt with, you know, along the way, there were times when, because I wasn't teaching all of the time. So when we moved in to Dallas from Marshall, Texas, I didn't have a job as a professor at that time. So you know, times were a little hard, and I just wanted a job. And so when I would go out and apply, participate in interviews, there were times that they would tell me, oh, you're too educated. You know, you have too much education for this job, or, you know, some other excuse. So yes, I have experienced quite a bit along the way. I just wanted to work, you
Yes.
know, and provide for my family, take care of my children.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had those obstacles to deal with.
One of the things I have found for women, especially, is the fact that there are other women who don't really support you sometimes. And it's so difficult to believe that. But there are women who are family members, women who are friends.
Mhm.
and they don't really support other women.
Oh, yes, yes. True.
What do you think about that?
But you, Dr.
Yeah.
Reverend
Mhm.
Cross?
Well, sometime I think sometimes that woman doesn't believe in herself. You know,
You
She
told me a
sees you doing
story.
something.
Yeah, well, you told me a story, Pastor Peggy, about your daughter-in-law trying to give natural birth. And it was actually your daughter who helped her through a very difficult time doing that. Uh,
A lot of, it was my daughter-in-law. She
Mhm.
had lost their firstborn. And it was at a birth center. But I can't go into detail, but
Yeah,
she overcame that. And with
Mhm.
any mother losing a child, it is hard. It was full birth, full term. But something happened in the birth canal. And now, praise God, they overcame that. And through prayer and just waiting on the Lord. And they have two beautiful children, one
Very
5 and one 3. But then most of my daughters, they start reading about the disparities in the health community where professionals aren't treating African-American women the same when it comes to childbirth. And some mothers are dying, some of the babies are dying. And thank God I was able to have 8 healthy children, but it's still happening. We push it under the rug or we don't want to talk about it, but it's discrimination. And why? They have insurance or either they pay out of their pockets, but they're not treated the same. They're not checked for all the accidents that could happen or things that could happen during childbirth. My mother used to say, when you're having a child, you have one foot in the grave and one on earth. It's serious.
Any of the teachers have given you? We have those already. All of those. Okay, I've got, we've only got 3. Oh.
and we have heard about the discrimination of Black women in particular in the health care professions. And that's still a battle we're fighting as women in general and Black women in particular. So as we talk just a bit more about this journey on International Women's Day as a woman, what particular things do you think, Ms. Bush, that you've encountered, say that glass ceiling in education? Have you been able to easily move beyond that? Or has that ceiling always kept you at a certain level as an educator?
Actually, there has not been, just grateful to say, because I've always wanted to teach. And so as a college professor, I have not experienced the ceiling because where I worked, the environments were, conducive. They were good. And the people I worked with showed me respect, and I give respect. I mean, I demand respect, but I'm going to give you respect. And that's what I found most of the time, or I could say all of the time, really, on the job. So I can just say, no, I haven't experienced what some folks have in the teaching profession.
Mhm. As far as the glass ceiling,
As far as the
what do
glass
you
ceiling,
think
yeah.
about that in general?
There were times I was told, what make you think you can be a principal? What
Mhm.
make you think you could do this or that, But I knew I could do it.
Yeah, yeah.
If I,
you got to
you
do
know,
that.
if I ran into stumbling blocks, I knew I could cross over. Jump hurdles, so to speak. But to keep trying. I was taught to persevere. I was taught
Yes.
to have courage. I was taught to believe in myself. And that's what I passed on to my kids. You can do anything you want to do. I
Yes,
tell my
yes,
grandkids,
yes,
you can do it. It's not what people say about you. It's not what they think.
that's for sure.
And most of the what is it? Discriminating remarks come from them not knowing. When are we gonna learn as a people to get to know each other?
Mm.
To get to accept our differences, to get to accept our abilities,
Yes.
you know, because it's wide open. We all, the Constitution says we all are created equal,
Yes.
you know.
Mhm.
We all have a mind, a brain, the organs, the body. We all are created equal. Now, it's what you do with yourself. How you
Right.
think. Do you think poorly of yourself? Do you think nothing is possible?
Mhm.
You know, I think about, who was it? Mary McLeod Bethune. She was the granddaughter of Negro slaves, and she started a school back in
Mhm.
1800.
Mhm.
And she said, with faith, without faith, nothing is possible.
Yes. And
But
she
with
started,
faith,
all things are
possible.
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 And
Yes,
that's from
Yeah.
scripture.
yes.
But
Mhm.
she encouraged the women to
Right.
go on.
Yes.
And then I think about Maya Angelou, and she says,
Mhm.
until you know to do better, you won't do better.
Mhm.
But when you know, you will do better.
Mhm.
You know,
At least you should. You
yes.
should do
You
better
should
once
do
you
better.
know.
And
Yes.
It's the will, it's where you are in your state of mind, it's where you are in your life.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's where you believe you can go.
Yes. And when you think about women like our vice president,
Yes.
and you're still hearing the first woman this, the first Black woman this, in this day and age, that means that the Virginia Slims commercial that says you've come a long way, baby. Well, we probably need to add to that, but you still have a long way to go.
Yes,
We
yes.
do.
Yeah.
There should not be a time when we're still talking about first, especially when it comes to women.
Mhm.
I had my students, and this just happened to tie in with International Women's Day, to critically look at the lives of the women who were suffrants, the ones who fought for the right to vote.
Yeah.
And so they did a critical analysis of a video, a movie, documentary about those women. And so many of them really did not believe that just 100 years ago or less, women couldn't vote.
That's true.
We take it so much for granted now,
Right.
but women actually did not have the right to vote. And we know African Americans didn't.
Mhm.
So African American women were even further behind getting the vote. And what they went through, the challenges, being arrested, being assaulted, just to fight for the right to enjoy what men enjoyed, and that is the right to vote. So we really do have a long way
Oh,
to go.
yes, we've come a long way.
Yes, we've come a long
Right.
way, but we have a long way to go. And as we begin to close this up, then I just want to end it with us talking a bit and encouraging ageism. We're all women of maturity. It's a good way to put it. And so often after you reach a certain age, you feel that you shouldn't do, you can't do, and you're made to feel that way. So let's start with you, Ms. Bush. What would you say to encourage women? There could be some grandmother out there who, like me, started college and so many things happened, changing residences 15 times, moving from one city to another city and all of that. And it's easy to give up. So what would you say to encourage women, particularly older women, to follow their dreams? And when I say older, I mean 40 and up.
Okay, first of all, this is International Women's Day.
Yes,
And I'm glad that we have an opportunity, at least once a year to celebrate, all of the accomplishments and achievements that women have made over the years. But yes, and you're saying 40, age 40.
yeah, and
It's kind of, it's kind of hard for me to respond to that since my exposure is mostly to younger people.
yes,
But regardless of the age, I'd say just do it. Set your goal, be passionate about it, um, be strong because you are going to get some discouragement along the way. Stumbling blocks are going to be there, but just keep focused, keep the faith, as Reverend Cross says, and just go for it. Believe in yourself. There's a statement like believe and you can achieve it.
yes, yes.
I believe in that. And another thing I was thinking about, there's a song that came out years ago, and I think a lot of us know about it. It was called It's a Man's World. And it goes sort of like it's a man's world, but it would be nothing without a woman and a
Yes.
girl.
Yes.
And so that to me tells me that women are just as important, in this society as men. And some of us have gotten to the point where we have obtained jobs in, say, male dominated areas. And it's a good thing, because I feel that women and more mature women have a lot of experiences and that they can share this, and be good examples, say, for the younger generation.
Yes, very good, very good. And one of the things that Black women in particular, and we're talking about Black women because this panel
Mhm.
is made up of, we still are exposed to a lot of disrespect.
Mhm.
When you hear a Black woman speaking, or you see Black women coming together in a conference,
Mhm.
there's still a lot of disrespect.
Mhm.
There's still people who will actually engage in such ways that they don't want to hear what you have to say. And in their minds, what you have to say is not that important.
Mhm.
Or it could be an upbringing that has taught them to believe that when an African American, particularly a woman, is speaking, that it's not worth listening to.
Mhm.
So that level of disrespect is still important to Black women, but it's one that those over 40 have learned to overcome. We've been able to make advances in
Yes.
education in all sorts of areas, the hidden figures women
Mhm.
in the
Exactly.
science, the
Exactly.
STEM, simply
Mhm.
because we were able to disregard the disrespect
Mhm.
and move on and say what we had to say anyway. Pastor
I
Peggy,
agree.
what do you think?
Yeah.
I agree with you on
Yeah.
that because, even in education, there are younger teachers, an older teacher can't tell them anything. But the older women, seniors, whether you call them seniors or seasoned women, we have more experience
Mhm.
in life itself. You've applied what you've learned, you've taught younger kids what they need to know, and then you've experienced the hurdles,
Yeah.
the rough spots, the stumbling blocks. You have experienced things they have not experienced. My husband and I talk about, we've taught our kids up to 20 and 30, but we haven't taught them about being 40. And we haven't taught them about being 50.
Yeah.
But in the workplace, no matter where it is some respect that is needed for the older. And the scripture talks about let the older women teach. the younger
Yes,
women.
yes. Uh-huh.
There is something you need that we have that we can share with you, whether it's, how to take care of your children, how to stay married to your husband, how to respect your employer. I've seen a lot of young ladies come out of college and they went, yay, I've arrived. I know it all. But you still have a lot to learn. You have book knowledge.
Yes.
You took a test, but you got to get that experience under your belt.
Yeah.
So you can teach someone else. So you can be a mentor to someone coming after you. So
That is a great mantra
respect is
for, to leave for women on International Women's Day is just a matter of using what you've learned to pass it on to help someone else.
Yes.
Now, Pastor Peggy, your book here is all about family is critical, a personal and inspirational memoir. I know that you have copies, and if anybody's interested in this, then following our panel discussion, please see Pastor Peggy. I've read it. I have an autographed copy, and it's a wonderful, wonderful book, very inspirational. So, Dr. Mike, we're going to turn everything back over.
We're going to have some Q&A questions. I have a question. Let me lend a male voice to this. Or was that called mansplaining, or is it? It seems like the stats for women in education are better. In fact, there are more women enrolled in school than men. Is there any problem anymore? Is it solved? Or is that stat doesn't live on its own? Or what do you have to say?
There was one time when they were saying, oh, we have no more racism in America because we've elected our first Black president. And that is generally saying the same thing, that women are doing better now because more women are in school. And that is especially true in seminary, in theological seminaries. There are more women in school, but once those women are out, who's getting the churches that pay $100,000 a year or more? Who's being appointed to positions as associate pastors in churches? Who's being given the appointed to positions as executive directors of some of the larger religious organizations? So while women may be in college, in seminary, getting those degrees, what's happening after they've obtained the degree? Are they easily moving into the workforce, into the better paying jobs?
Okay, I have a question for you. You're all three mothers and all three have raised a family. What do you think are some of the keys? You've talked about the importance of perseverance and picking yourself up when you stumble. How do you build that sense of resilience or perseverance or motivation, whatever you want to call it? How do you build that amongst your own kids? How do you bring that out in others?
Encouragement. Or take them on field trips to know, let's go see what this inventor did. Museum of Artists, to let them know that there are opportunities out there. There are people of their diversity that are doing great things. And encourage them, keep them encouraged, because their peers are telling them opposite.
There was a time, I'll just respond to that briefly. When I was growing up, and Sister Bush, you may want to respond, that we were told, do as I say do, not as I do. And that is one good way not to raise good children. and responsible citizens. We just got to model for our
Yes.
children what we expect their behavior to be. If we don't model it, then they're going to pick that up and with one of those other agents of socialization, and that's usually their homies on the streets. They're going to learn to behave according to what they see. And so it's important that parents not just tell their kids what they should do, but to actually model it. If you want your children to be kind to others, then don't curse your neighbor out next door and expect your child not to do it. Don't wave a gun all around the house and expect your child not to take one to school. And we must model what we expect from our children. Children live what they learn.
I have to agree with you, Dr. Dollarhide, and I feel that it does begin in the home,
Yes.
as you have said. My grandmother used to tell me as a kid to keep my head up, you know, walk erect, keep your head up, be proud of who you are, you know. And I tried, and I think I have succeeded in instilling that in my children. And like you say, they can be easily influenced by their peers. So you have to work hard at home, set good examples, you know, so that they will have some type of guideline to follow.
Oh, yes, I have a niece that is in medical school now. She's trying to become a doctor. And she was taking one of her exams for her second year. And during the exam, the professor would pass by her desk and make comments, even to the point of saying, "You're not going to make it here." Of course, she challenged that and just recently received an approval from the vice president, I guess, that they were going to give her the ability to take that over. Did you ladies face any kind of challenges as far as the instructors that you had to deal with? Because the common myth is that such people are beyond reproach and they are just so honorable. And I think that most people are just that. They're just people at heart.
Yes, I faced a few. There was injuries coming to my room when they knew I had enrolled to be a principal. That would make you think you could be a principal.
Discouragement.
That wasn't in the classroom. That was, you know, an employee that worked at the administration office or different. I said, well, I believe I could do it. Well, how are you gonna pay for it? I said, that's none of your business. You know, everything to stop you from going forward, everything to make you doubt yourself, you know, to rethink, oh, you know, no, there's nobody greater to me than God. You know, man can say what they want. There are rules and laws out there. Yes, we have to abide by the rules of the land. But spiritually, there's another law. When he says he will help us, you know. And so through strength, perseverance, faith, believing, you have to walk, take a step and move and walk. And go for it. I'm proud of my niece that went for it and spoke up for herself. You gotta have a voice and don't let no one take your voice. Nobody knows what's going on here. They're just looking at your outward shell, but they don't know how you feel, how you think.
I was going to say, as women, we are often asked to balance multiple roles, multiple demands, education, children, family, church, home. How did you all go about balancing that in your lives?
Well, I guess I'll answer that. Having 8 children, there's a self-sacrifice. You know, you want them to succeed. You're talking about modeling. Well, I can't say, oh, you can't be that. I don't want to hear that myself, you know? So I had to say, oh yeah, you can do that. And I went, well, Mom, we got practice, or Mom, we got to go. I had them in the band and football, basketball, choir. One son was in choir and basketball, and he succeeded, good grades and all, you know. But we were sitting eating dinner on the bleachers. We were, you know, not able to relax until 9, 10 o'clock at night, you know. Just a woman wears many hats. You just got to juggle it and say, Lord, give me strength. And you keep moving and you help, you know, and then sometimes the kids will be against each other. Well, y'all didn't let the younger ones do this. They get away with everything, you know. But I say, well, there are times and seasons. There were times my husband was out of work with the older kids, and there were times he got a promotion with the younger ones.
Yes.
And then the older ones were in college or on their own with their jobs. So there was less money, I mean, more money to be divided among the 2 or 3 left home.
Exactly.
And so it's the situation changes. Tell them times, if it's hard times, it's not gonna always be like this, you know, it's gonna get better, and it does.
And don't forget your village. Those around you, the neighbor next door who can help out. You know, it takes a village to raise a child. So don't forget your village. As I was raising my children, I'm from Texarkana in Texas, and I was living in Tyler. So I didn't have that family village there, but there were friends of my mother who lived in Tyler. There were people in my church who helped me. And without that village, I raised 4 children. And it would have been very, very difficult without that village. And then it continues, because now I have 10 grandchildren, and I've tried to be there for them to help their parents. So don't forget the village, those who can help you. Don't try to do it all by yourself.
I had one more question. Kind of a follow-up to what he was saying. I actually was, this may date me a little, but I was struggling in graduate school. My dad was kind of passing away, and I didn't turn a paper in on time. So I went to my professor's office hours before it was a night class, and to talk through some of that stuff, and said, you know, can I turn this in late? And it was, you know, it was kind of a mess. But one of the things that they said in the class that night was that women really are desperate housewives, and went on to talk about kind of, you know, being hysterical and how that makes it hard in education. And so just a follow up, yeah, that's definitely been a thing. But my question then, on a related note, what do you think there is a big gap between people of color and some of their white and Asian counterparts when it comes to, like, say, STAR test scores and success in college. We've been looking at a lot of those numbers. What do you think schools can do to help close that gap? What are some of the changes you'd like to see in your community schools, for example?
That's a loaded.
That's
That's
There's so
pretty
many,
loaded question. Yeah.
there's so many, it's, teachers teach with different styles. Kids learn with different perspectives. I can say Johnny measure 5 feet, and he's gonna measure 2. You know, to him, his estimation is 2 feet. But a teacher's gift of teaching a child is learn their learning style. To know, okay, do I need to repeat this 3 or 4 times? I can't rush through this lesson. Do I need to give him remedial work or her remedial work? Or is it underlying elements? Sometimes there's so much trouble at home, the child can't think, or they have a household where they're constantly being fussed at, or constantly, you know, having to bear or be the oldest or take care of the kid, be the parent. Some kids have to be the parent. There's so many underlying disparities that all you can do while you have them. You know, I used to cry sometimes. Oh, this baby, what's gonna happen? And a sweet principal told me, you only have them for 7 hours a day. You know, their parents have them, the other 18, 17 hours. So do what you can. And I would look at it as if it was my own child, you know, to close the gap, to get the strategies. You know, there's strategies to taking tests. You can't just read one sentence and then you know the answer. You can't just read a story and remember everything. You got to go back and read it again, or take notes, or mark spots on the passage. You know, it's so many different things, but it's also taking extra time. I used to do tutoring after the one birthday to help that child that was, you know, below what you expect. Okay, they need a little extra time, they need a little extra help, or either they need their parents at home. But everybody's not working like that. And so, you know.
Thing too, and I say that question is loaded because it's something we really, as a society, as school districts, as just people in general in our own minds, we need to deal with that issue. One of the problems we know is that our tests are not really that culturally sensitive. And so, and that would mean that, say, in a Black household where you're living in an apartment building and you're a latchkey kid, no one's home, you're making peanut butter sandwiches on your own or finding them in some neighbor's trash. And a kid who just came from a cruise to the Caribbean, or my favorite place, Aruba, and had all those experiences, they sit next to each other and take the same test. So for one, when the test says on the lawn, there was and the other kid doesn't know anything about a lawn, he has a yard, maybe. If he's in the apartment building, there's not even a yard. So we got to look at the test being more culturally sensitive. We just don't all have the same cultural experiences. And because of that, we cannot expect everyone to pass the same test on the same level. I used to use the graphic that and not too long ago in this country, Black people could not read or write because they were not allowed to learn to read or write. And then all of a sudden you say separate but equal. So you had still Black schools, white schools, and the Black students were getting the 2- and 3-year-old textbooks that the white students had. And then all of a sudden we say, well, separate but equal is just not working. Let's slap everybody together. And so you put these students that are years, generations ahead of other students, and because they can't do as well, you call them failures. You say that they can't learn, they won't learn. And often they don't have parents at home with the ability to teach them the same things. So we probably can start with having school for parents who really and truly have not had the privilege of getting a high school education, certainly not a college education, and helping them learn how to help their children. That may be another way to start.
Real quickly, if I could, as a father of a 13-year-old daughter who is the product of a divorce, I just wanted to say that, you know, I try to be keenly aware of things that will help her, and what you have spoken today about family, about community, about setting a good example, and all those things, you know, it just all comes around. Because like you're right, to teach, you know, and I've heard it said that a lawyer needs X amount of education, a doctor needs X amount of education, but to be a parent, I hear that. And so, I think it's important as you're speaking to focus on those things that are common and good. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. I'd like ask one question or make a comment. When I was growing up, I started at all black school. So do you think integration helped the black kids when they was like from Dollar High said, they stayed together? Do you think integration really helped us in the field of education or life? Do you all really feel that it has helped us in some ways? I mean, what ways do you think integration have helped us or not helped us?
I guess I can start out for myself. I grew up doing segregation. All right, my schools were not integrated. Well, they weren't integrated in Alabama until I had graduated from high school, which was in the 60s. So as far as integration and all of the stories that I heard, even from my husband, some of the cruelty that they experienced, during that time, I didn't get that. I had moved on to college. But as far as integration is concerned, I do feel that there is a positive aspect to that, even though it was more like a culture shock to the Black race as well. But the Black race got exposed to the things that we did not in the segregated schools.
That's
like we got better, they got better books, more
Yes.
up-to-date books. And I'm just trying to think, technology. So yes, I think that was positive. I see it as positive more so than negative in that case. But in the segregated schools, when I went through those, I had excellent teachers.
Yes.
And I felt that I got more one-on-one participation between the teacher and the student. And so I learned a lot. Whereas when the schools were integrated, a lot of our Black children, as has been said, didn't get that.
Okay. No, sorry. Yeah. Lenny.
I agree. I grew up, went to all black school from first to ninth grade. And we integrated in 10th grade. And so I saw, oh, brand new textbook. I had pages torn out of readers, Well, what's the rest of the story? Or in the teacher's guide sheet I had. But even in the gym, PE wasn't PE.
Yeah.
We had a gym. We would jump rope and do different things. But when we got to the white school, there was gym, the balance beam, everything for professional gymnastics. Everything was there. I'm like, a balance beam, oh my God. And so we had an adjustment. But then I went to an all-girls school. It was a public all-girl school. And so, but at the Black school, I felt like it was my village. I felt like we were family. The teachers were in my neighborhood, and I didn't know the teachers at the white school. And they treated me with respect, but it was, you told the line. You can't goof off, but there was some encouragement. And then I think now, back in the day, I didn't have a computer, I didn't have a laptop, we learned, we studied hard. And with my kids, they had laptop and studying, I have a daughter that was sitting looking at the television and typing on the keyboard. And I said, girl, you better be getting your homework. And she'd get her homework and she was multitasking, but they learned. And if, the teachers knew to call us if there were problems.
We are out of time. Thank you so much, Professor Bush, Professor Dollarhide, and most of all, our Miss Peggy Cross. Yeah, so let's give them a round of applause. And this is International Women's Day. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for this. I didn't realize that you had authored this. Yeah, I will definitely read it.